Hi, I'm Paul Kelly, and in this Tech Talk I'm going to run you through the process of setting up a Liftlog data logger. Now I'm going to assume that you've got it wired into the crane and you have power connected, some kind of load cell, and the motion inputs wired in as per the manual, and maybe you've got an overload connected up to pins 13 and 14 too. What I've got here is a Liftlog running off a bench power setup, like that. And I've got a load cell simulator simulating load on the crane. Okay, so it's up, we've got a green light on, that means the power's hooked up right. So the next thing we do is we connect to this Liftlog from our laptop. To do that, we launch the FSU application, which is available for download from the website. And it will start up with our link to modem plugged in, and it will go out and look for Liftlogs or access packs or any of our products that might be installed on the site you're working on. Goes away and has a good look. If you've got a large number of these installed, this can take maybe a minute or two. But here you can see it's found a Liftlog called Unconfigured. We ship them all with that name, so it makes it easy to identify. I double click on that. Goes away, makes a connection, and up it comes. On this screen, we see the name of the device is unconfigured, its current date and time, the firmware version it runs, and in this case, this isn't obviously a new one. It's got 47,000 lifts logged on it. The first thing we need to do is calibrate the load. To do that, we go to the Load tab, and what I'll do now is I'll turn the load cell simulator to simulate picking up a load. And as I do that, what you'll see on the display is the little blue bar underneath the indicated load moves up. Now this little blue bar is important. That little blue bar tells you how big a signal we're getting in from the load sensor. So I'll reset it back again. With your test weight, which should really be about 80% of the rated capacity of the crane. However, you can get a reasonable calibration with down around 50% if that's all you've got. You lift your test weight up. What you should see is that little blue bar, and I'll do it here, I'll simulate it. If we're lifting 80% of the capacity of the crane, then we would like to see, not that much, the little blue bar move at least that much across the screen, as we see there. And that indicates we're getting a big span of signal in for the load that we're actually lifting. If you lifted 80% of the capacity of the crane and you only saw that much on there, that indicates that we're not getting a big signal in and that our calibration is likely to be of poor quality. If that's the case, then all you need to do is open the case up and adjust the gain jumpers here as we describe on the manual. So in this case, if I put that jumper on the first two settings there, the signal gets bigger, and if I put it on the next two settings there, it gets bigger again. In any case, having now adjusted the gain on the system such that we're getting a good swing, a good size input from that little blue bar, then the next thing to do is to put our load down. Okay, so with no load on the hook, we've put the load down. Now with no load on the hook, we hit the 0 button and we wait as it goes away and takes a whole bunches of readings and makes a good average of them. And you'll see the load drop to 0 or something very close to it, as it has done. Now we lift our load up and we let the load stabilize so it's not swinging anymore. We hit the cal button and we tell it how much load's on the hook. In this case, we're going to say 10 tons. And it will go away, again, take a lot of average readings, and now the display will read, in this case, 10.0 tons. And you can test this by lowering the load and taking strain up, and you'll see as we take the load off the hook, it goes down, and we take it up again, and it goes up. And that's a good indication that you've got a good calibration. If it's sitting there and the indicated load's fluctuating a bit, then perhaps go back and redo that calibration. To redo the calibration, you press this button, and it tells you that you may be about to do something stupid, because this button will remove the calibration from the crane, and if you don't have test weights to put the calibration back in again, then you could be in trouble. And whenever you're about to do something that might get you in trouble, the system will say, hey, you might be about to get yourself into trouble, so don't be afraid to push buttons. We won't do that here. Okay, so now we've got a calibration. If we have the load output configured on this, the load limiting output configured on this, which we'd normally wire in series with the up contactor, we can go to the overload, and we can key in the set point at which the contacts in this box will open up and inhibit lifting. In this case, I'm saying it's 12 ton, and that the output is normally closed. You can invert that output to make it normally open or normally closed, depending on how you've got the thing wired into the crane. The overload sensitivity slider down underneath that determines how sensitive the system is to an overload event. In the setting that we ship it with, it will register an overload if the load exceeds the set point for maybe 0.1, 0.2 seconds. If you were to drag that slider all the way to the right, then it might get up to maybe 2 seconds it needs to be over the limit for. Okay, so if you look at the LED on the front, it's blinking to indicate that we're talking to the unit, and as I increase the load, 2.7, 5.1, 13 tons, bang, it goes red to indicate that we're in overload. And if I drop that load down again, a bit more, goes green to indicate we're not in overload. The last thing you might want to do is go to the Inputs tab, and I haven't got any set up here, but there is a checkbox on the screen, and as you move the crane in each direction, you'll see a tick appear in that box, in those boxes for each direction that you've got wired into it. Now I understand that you don't always wire every direction into the unit, but you can do so, and if you just want to check that you've got the motion inputs wired correctly, take a look at that screen and make sure that when you move the crane in that direction, a tick appears in the box. And lastly, we give it a name. We recommend that you set it to the serial number of the crane, but you can really set it to anything you like. That name will appear on the screen on the first screen that you see where the system goes looking for devices, and it helps you identify which lift log you might want to connect to in a site that has multiple lift logs. Apart from that, that's it. All you've got to do, to go through it, connect it, wire it up, make sure that your load signal is giving you a good range of input, zero it, calibrate it. If you've got an overload capability wired in, then set that, and lastly give it a name. And that's how you set up a lift log. It's pretty straightforward. Cheers.